You were standing still. Not frozen, just comfortably paused. The night air rests against your skin with a cool kindness, like it knows you have been carrying the day for a long time. Somewhere nearby, a quiet river moves, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to be noticed if you choose to notice it. You do choose. You always do, eventually. You breathe in. The breath arrives. You breathe out. Time, for now, behaves the way you expect. It moves past you at a familiar pace, the way a river usually does when nothing is in its way. One moment follows another, evenly spaced, like gentle footsteps on a wooden bridge. Nothing rushes. Nothing resists. The river does not care what time it is, which is reassuring, because you sometimes care too much. You shift your weight slightly, feeling the ground beneath your feet. Solid. Patient. Unimpressed by schedules. The river of time slides by at your side, carrying small reflections of thought, memory, and anticipation. You watch them float past, some shimmering, some barely noticeable, all moving along without asking for permission. This is how time usually feels to you. A flow. A passing. Science agrees with you more than you might expect. Time is not just a ticking thing on walls or glowing screens. It is something you move through, something that moves with you, something woven together with space itself. You do not stand outside it. You stand inside it, like a person standing ankle-deep in a slow river, feeling the water curl gently around their legs. The river makes a soft sound. Not words. More like agreement. You notice your breath again, because breath is an excellent anchor. In and out. The body knows how to do this without instruction, which feels like a small miracle you are allowed to keep. As you breathe, moments continue to pass, each one dissolving into the next, smooth and unbothered. Nothing about this feels dangerous. Nothing about this feels urgent. You are not late. The universe has never checked its watch. The river of time glides along, and you begin to sense its shape. Not with your eyes, but with the quiet part of you that notices patterns without naming them. The flow feels straight here, predictable, like a story you have read many times and still find comforting. Cause follows effect. Before leads gently into after. But rivers, you remember, rarely stay straight forever. You tilt your head slightly, listening. The distant sound of water shifts, almost imperceptibly, as if the river is learning a new word and practicing it under its breath. The current remains calm, but something subtle changes in the way reflections stretch across the surface. You breathe in again. A little deeper this time. Downstream, far beyond where your eyes could ever reach, something massive rests. It does not move. It does not announce itself. It simply exists, and that is enough. Its presence presses softly into the fabric of space, and time, being polite, adjusts. You do not feel pulled. Not yet. Instead, you feel a gentle suggestion, like the faintest tug on a sleeve you are not wearing. The river of time begins to curve, not sharply, not suddenly, but with the grace of something that has all the patience in the universe. Which, incidentally, it does. This is where science whispers rather than explains. Time is not absolute. It does not flow the same everywhere, for everyone. It responds to mass, to motion, to the quiet architecture of the cosmos. Space and time are partners, inseparable, like a dance that looks simple only because it has been practiced forever. You watch the river bend. It does not spill. It does not break. The water remains smooth, its surface catching faint starlight, stretching it slightly as the curve deepens. You feel a sense of calm curiosity, the kind that does not demand answers right away. The universe appreciates this about you. It also enjoys it when you lie down, but that can come later. Your body grows heavier in a pleasant way, like it is settling into the moment rather than bracing against it. Shoulders soften. Jaw loosens. Somewhere, a thought tries to hurry past, trips, and decides to sit down instead. Time continues. Just differently. You realize that standing at the river's edge does not mean you are separate from it. Your thoughts ripple the surface. Your attention changes the way moments feel as they pass. Some seconds feel wide and slow. Others slip by unnoticed. This is not a flaw in your perception. It is a feature of reality. The river does not judge. It simply flows. A faint hum fills the air, not a sound you hear with your ears, but one you feel in your chest, steady and low. The night seems to lean closer, curious but calm. The river curves a little more, responding to that unseen presence downstream, the one that bends spacetime the way a stone shapes water without ever touching it. You remain where you are. Safe. Watching. There is no need to step forward yet. No need to understand everything at once. For now, it is enough to notice that time can curve, that it can respond, that it is not the rigid line you were once told it had to be. You take one more slow breath. The river glimmers. And as the current deepens almost imperceptibly, you sense that gravity is beginning to make its quiet mark on the flow, shaping what comes next, patiently, as all profound things do. You remain at the river's edge, still unhurried, still listening. The night has not changed, but your awareness has softened, like eyes adjusting to low light. The river continues its gentle curve, and now you begin to feel something beneath it, something quieter than motion itself. You inhale. The ground answers. There is a warmth beneath your feet, subtle and reassuring, as if the earth remembers every step ever taken and approves of yours. Gravity is doing what it always does, holding you without comment, without effort, without asking for gratitude. It has been here longer than worry, and it plans to stay. You have been taught to think of gravity as a pull, a command, a thing that drags objects downward. But standing here, breathing slowly, you sense something kinder. Gravity is not shouting. It is sculpting. It shapes space the way water shapes stone, patiently, with no concern for applause. The river of time responds to the shaping. It always has. You watch the curve deepen, not because the river is forced, but because the river is listening. Massive things rest within the universe, not moving much, not announcing themselves, simply existing with such commitment that space gently yields around them. Time follows, because time and space are inseparable companions, and neither likes to be left alone. You shift your weight slightly, feeling the gentle heaviness in your body, the pleasant reminder that you are held. This heaviness is not exhaustion. It is belonging. Gravity does not trap you. It gives you a place to rest your thoughts. Your breath slows. The river listens too. Science explains this without raising its voice. Gravity is not an invisible rope pulling things inward. It is a quiet reshaping of the stage on which everything moves. Space curves. Time curves with it. Nothing complains. The universe prefers smooth transitions, like a well-practiced dance. You imagine the riverbed beneath the water, unseen but essential. It dips and rises, carved by forces that do not hurry. The river flows where the bed allows, not because it must, but because it makes sense. Time behaves the same way, following the gentle contours of spacetime, curving where mass presses softly inward. You feel no alarm. There is nothing wrong here. The idea that gravity bends time does not disturb you. It comforts you. It means the universe is responsive. It means moments are not rigid blocks, but flexible experiences. Some stretch. Some compress. All of them belong. A faint smile finds its way to your face, because it turns out the universe is more like a pillow than a stopwatch. Slightly uneven. Perfectly supportive. Occasionally responsible for unintended naps. The river continues to curve. Still calm. You notice how your thoughts behave differently here. They do not rush ahead as much. They wander. They circle. Some of them sit down near the bank and dangle their feet in the water. Gravity seems to affect them too, encouraging stillness rather than speed. You breathe in again, and the sense of gentle heaviness deepens, like a blanket settling more fully across your shoulders. This is not pressure. It is presence. Massive objects shape spacetime simply by being, and in doing so, they teach time how to move. Nothing breaks when space bends. Nothing tears. This bending is smooth, continuous, and deeply polite. Even black holes, which sound dramatic in name alone, obey this quiet rule. They curve spacetime profoundly, yes, but without violence. The universe does not slam doors. It curves hallways. You glance at the river's surface, watching reflections stretch slightly along the bend. Starlight lingers longer in some places, as if unsure when to leave. Time does this too. Near great mass, moments take their time, savoring their own existence. You are not falling. You are standing. Gravity does not yank the river downward. It invites the river to take a new shape. The water agrees. Time agrees. Space agrees. Agreement, it seems, is one of the universe's favorite activities. Your body relaxes further, trusting the ground completely now. You do not need to hold yourself up. Gravity has that covered. It always has. You simply exist, and the universe adjusts around you, the way it always does for everything. You breathe out slowly. The river deepens. This deepening is subtle, almost secretive. If you were not paying attention, you might miss it. But you are paying attention in the loose, sleepy way that notices without clinging. You sense the riverbed growing more pronounced, guiding the flow with increasing confidence. Time is learning where to linger. Gravity is teaching it. This teaching is silent. No lectures. No diagrams. Just curvature. Just presence. Just the quiet certainty that massive things shape the paths around them, not through force, but through being exactly what they are. You find this reassuring, because it means you do not have to push to matter. Existence alone carries weight. Even you, standing here, slightly sleepy, slightly amused by the idea that spacetime bends more elegantly than your posture ever has. The river hums softly, deeper now, like a lullaby written by physics. You feel the warmth of the ground, the steady pull that keeps you connected, the curve of time responding to the shape of space. Nothing is breaking. Everything is bending beautifully. You remain at the river's edge, watching as the curve grows smoother, deeper, more intentional. Gravity continues its quiet work, sculpting the riverbed with infinite patience. With each slow breath, the path of time adjusts, preparing for places where the flow will grow even gentler. Some bends, you sense, are so deep that the river will almost forget to move at all. You remain near the river, but something feels different now. Not alarming. Just slower. The air seems thicker, as if it has learned how to wait. Sounds arrive with rounded edges, soften before they reach you. Even your thoughts take longer to form, pausing politely, like guests removing their shoes before entering a quiet room. You breathe in. The breath stays a moment. You breathe out. The river of time no longer rushes past your side. It glides. Its surface looks smoother, darker, more reflective, like evening water holding under the last light of day. Where the curve deepens, the current stretches itself thin, spreading moments wide instead of pushing them forward. This is what it feels like when time begins to linger. You do not feel stuck. You feel spacious. Gravity has shaped the riverbed more deeply here, and time responds by slowing, the way water always does when it encounters depth. This is not resistance. It is adjustment. The universe, once again, chooses gentleness over force. You notice your heartbeat. Not faster. Wider. Each beat arrives fully, then takes its time leaving, as if savoring its own echo. Science has a name for this, but it does not insist you remember it. What matters is the experience. Near great mass, time stretches. Seconds become longer without becoming heavier. The river does not freeze. It simply relaxes. You shift your stance, feeling the warmth of the ground through the soles of your feet. Gravity holds you with slightly more intention now, like a hand resting reassuringly on your back. This gentle heaviness encourages stillness, not collapse. You are safe here. Very safe. The river hums lower, deeper, its sound stretched thin like honey drawn slowly from a spoon. You realize that what you call now is not a single point. It has width. It has texture. It can be leaned into. Time, you learn, is not always in a hurry to become the past. You blink slowly, and the blink feels longer than expected, as if your eyelids are participating in a lesson. When they open again, the river looks the same, and yet you sense that more has passed than you can name. Or perhaps less. The difference matters less than you thought it would. You smile faintly, because even your confusion feels calm. This lingering is not a mistake in the universe's design. It is one of its most elegant features. Time adjusts its pace depending on where it flows, responding to the shape of space the way breath responds to rest. You inhale again. The inhale expands. Near massive things, time stretches out, allowing moments to settle before moving on. This does not threaten you. It invites you. Slowing here is not a warning sign. It is a cushion. You feel your shoulders sink, your jaw loosen. The river seems pleased by this cooperation. It likes when observers do not try to manage it. You watch the surface of the water, noticing how reflections linger longer than they did before. Starlight smears gently across the curve, refusing to hurry. Even light, usually so eager, appears willing to take its time. Time lingers. So do you. There is a quiet humor in this, something almost playful. The universe, which once made you rush for buses and deadlines, now asks you to practice patience with it. You consider reminding it that you have never been good at waiting, but the thought feels unnecessary. Time is doing the waiting for you. Your breath grows rhythmic, slow, and even. In. Pause. Out. Pause. Each pause feels earned, not empty. The spaces between moments are as meaningful as the moments themselves. This is the lesson gravity teaches time here. Depth encourages stillness. Presence encourages pause. The deeper the curve, the more time spreads itself thin, refusing to be rushed into neat little units. You notice that memory behaves differently too. Thoughts drift in without urgency, then drift out again, leaving only a warm impression behind. Nothing demands to be solved. Nothing insists on being next. The river flows like thick velvet now, smooth and deliberate, its movement more suggestion than command. You could watch this forever, or at least until sleep claims you, which feels increasingly likely. You chuckle softly to yourself, because even cosmic phenomena seem to support naps when observed correctly. The sound of the river grows quieter still, stretched into a hush that feels intentional. Silence here is not absence. It is fullness. It wraps around you, heavy and kind, like a blanket that knows exactly how much weight you prefer. You feel your body respond, settling more completely into gravity's hold. There is no need to brace. No need to prepare. Slowing does not mean falling behind. It means arriving fully. You are not losing time. You are inhabiting it. The river's current continues to soften as the curve deepens ahead. Somewhere further along, the water will slow even more, approaching a place where motion itself seems to hesitate. You sense this not with concern, but with curiosity, the gentle kind that does not wake you up. You take another slow breath. The pause stretches. The river nearly forgets to move, and you drift with it, calm and unafraid, wondering quietly what it feels like where the flow almost comes to rest at all. You drift closer now, not by effort, not by decision, but by continuation. The river carries you the way it always has, gently, patiently, as if this were the most ordinary thing in the universe. The curve has deepened so completely that the flow feels almost level, like water deciding to lie down and rest. You breathe in, the breath feels weightless. Ahead of you is a place the river does not rush past. It gathers. It smooths itself into a surface so calm it barely remembers movement. This is the shoreline people speak of in hushed tones, but standing here, you find nothing dramatic waiting for you. No wall. No edge. Just a boundary made of stillness. The air grows quiet, not empty, but hushed, like a room that knows a secret and sees no need to share it quickly. Sound fades into something softer, something more like presence than noise. Even the river's hum becomes a held note, stretched thin until it feels like silence wearing a disguise. You float rather than stand, your body feels lighter. This is where time slows so deeply that, from far away, it appears to stop. But from here, where you are, it feels like drifting. Like resting on your back in water that supports you without effort. The river does not pull you forward. It holds you exactly where you are. This place is not a barrier, it is a relationship. Science calls this boundary an event horizon, but the name sounds louder than the experience. There is no sudden change when you arrive. No flashing sign. No cosmic drum roll. Time simply stretches itself so fully that it forgets how to hurry. You notice your breath again, in, out. Each breath feels separate, complete, not rushed into the next. The space between them expands, and you realize that waiting no longer feels like waiting. It feels like floating. The river's surface becomes glass smooth, reflecting distant starlight without distortion. Light lingers here, caught in the curve of spacetime, tracing circles that never quite close. From far away, someone might say you have slowed almost to nothing. But from here, everything feels continuous. Nothing snaps, nothing ends. Time does not stop at this shoreline. It simply stops behaving the way it does elsewhere. Cause and effect still exist, but they stretch so far apart they feel like old friends waving from opposite sides of a lake. You feel no fear, you feel curious calm. The idea that this place is called a point of no return does not trouble you. Nothing about it feels like loss. It feels like commitment. Beyond the shoreline, the river flows in only one direction, not because it is forced, but because the shape of spacetime allows no other option. You are not pushed, you are guided. Your body feels suspended, breath floating in and out as if gravity has decided to take a softer grip. Weightlessness wraps around you, not as emptiness, but as relief. Muscles release. Thoughts loosen their hold. You realize something quietly profound. The shoreline is not a physical place you bump into. It is a limit of communication. Beyond this calm boundary, events still happen, time still flows, but signals can no longer travel back upstream. The river keeps its secrets gently. You find this oddly polite. The universe draws boundaries without violence, without drama, simply by curving space-time so completely that paths no longer connect the way they used to. It does not forbid return. It reshapes possibility. You drift at the edge, feeling how time behaves differently here. Moments feel thick, like honey just before it falls from a spoon. They stretch, gleam, and linger, refusing to break. Your breath slows further, the pause grows longer. From far away, someone watching might think you freeze here, suspended forever at the shoreline. But you know better. You feel the subtle continuation, the quiet insistence of forward motion that does not feel like movement at all. This is the strange kindness of the river. It never jolts you into change. It eases you into new rules so gently you hardly notice when they arrive. You smile faintly, because even now, even here, the universe refuses to rush. There is no alarm bell at this boundary. No warning siren. No sense of crossing a forbidden line. The shoreline simply exists, smooth and calm, marking where time's behavior shifts into something deeper. You feel held, completely held. The water beneath you feels dense with quiet, as if it has learned the art of patience. The river no longer feels like it is going somewhere. It feels like it is becoming somewhere. You think briefly of clocks, of schedules, of the way time used to tap you on the shoulder and ask you to move along. Those ideas feel distant now, like memories from a different shore. Here, time does not tap. It rests its hand and waits. You allow yourself to rest too. There is nothing you need to do to stay afloat. The river supports you entirely, curved spacetime doing all the work without complaint. The stillness deepens, and you notice that even your thoughts begin to drift more slowly. They arrive, stretch out, then dissolve without needing conclusions. Understanding becomes optional. Presence is enough. You chuckle softly at the thought that the most mysterious boundary in the universe feels suspiciously like a very good place to nap. The river's surface reflects starlight in long, unbroken lines. The light does not rush away. It circles, lingers, and waits, as if time itself has decided to admire the view. You take another slow breath. It feels endless. Beyond the shoreline, the river behaves in ways you have not experienced yet. Direction changes meaning. Movement becomes inevitability rather than choice. Time and space will trade roles quietly, without announcement. For now, you remain at the edge, floating in stillness, breath drifting, awareness soft, as the river prepares to carry you inward, deeper into its unfamiliar calm. You do not cross the shoreline so much as you continue. There is no moment to mark, no signal to announce arrival. One instant drifts into the next, and you realize you are already inside the deepening current, carried without effort, without surprise, without even a sense of beginning. You breathe in. The breath moves with you. The river of time no longer flows past your side. It flows through the center of everything. Forward is no longer a direction you choose. It is the only direction that exists, and that fact feels oddly comforting. There is nothing to decide. Nothing to resist. The water feels smooth here, thick with calm, like a current that has learned how to be patient. You are not being pulled. You are being included. The river accepts you the way it accepts everything else, by making space for you inside its motion. You float easily. Effort dissolves. Inside this region, time and space behave differently, though not rudely. They simply exchange responsibilities. What once felt like moving through time now feels like moving through space, and what once felt like space becomes part of the timing of things. It is not confusing. It is quiet. The river does not rush you forward. It carries you inward. You notice that the sense of falling never arrives. There is no drop, no acceleration that demands attention. The current deepens, but it remains gentle, like water drawing you toward the center of a slow whirlpool that never tightens abruptly. Science would tell you that inside this boundary, forward motion becomes inevitable, but inevitability does not feel harsh here. It feels like rest. Like finally stopping the effort of swimming upstream. You let your shoulders soften. They were ready. The river's direction now points inward, toward greater depth, and following it does not feel like loss of control. It feels like alignment. Space itself seems to lean in this direction, and time agrees, unfolding steadily, patiently, without hesitation. You realize that moving forward no longer means leaving something behind. The idea of behind has grown fuzzy, stretched thin, like a word repeated too often until it loses its edges. Here, continuation replaces choice. You breathe again, slow and even, and the breath feels like in or dipping into the water, not to steer, but to keep rhythm. In. Out. Each breath confirms that you are still here, still present, still supported by the flow. The river hums softly around you. Lower now. This hum feels like a promise rather than a sound. It tells you that motion here is natural, that effort is unnecessary, that surrender does not mean disappearance. It means cooperation. Inside the current, time no longer feels like something that passes. It feels like something that carries. Moments arrive not one after another, but layered, overlapping gently, like ripples that never quite fade before the next one forms. You notice how your thoughts respond. They drift inward too, slowing, smoothing, losing their sharp corners. Concerns that once felt urgent now seem oddly far away, like items forgotten in a different room. You smile faintly, because even your worries seem willing to take a nap here. The river does not ask you to understand its structure. It does not quiz you on physics. It simply behaves, and you are allowed to feel what that behavior is like from the inside. Time, here, is directional in a new way. Moving forward is not about speed. It is about depth. Each moment settles you more fully into the flow, like sinking into a warm bath that never gets too deep too fast. You feel safe. Deeply safe. The idea that you cannot turn back does not trouble you. Turning back no longer feels meaningful. There is no upstream in the way you once understood it. There is only inward, and inward feels gentle, almost curious. The river carries everything inward eventually. Not urgently. Not violently. Simply because that is how it is shaped. You sense the surrounding spacetime guiding the flow, like a riverbed that becomes steeper toward its center while remaining smooth and continuous. Nothing jolts. Nothing tears. The universe still prefers curves over collisions. Your body feels light, as if gravity has learned how to hold without pressing. Weight exists, but it feels diffused, spread evenly through the moment. Muscles release further. Breathing becomes almost automatic, slower than before, deeper without effort. You are floating forward by breathing. The quiet humor of this does not escape you. You have spent so much time trying to control direction, pace, progress. And now, the universe gently demonstrates that sometimes the most profound journeys happen when you stop steering entirely. You chuckle softly, the sound dissolving immediately into the surrounding calm. The current continues to deepen. The river narrows slightly, focusing itself, not squeezing, but guiding. Time feels more concentrated now, like a melody played slower and lower, every note given space to resonate. You feel curiosity rise, not sharp, not urgent, just present. Ahead lies the deepest part of the river, the place toward which all this inward motion gently points. You do not know what it will feel like, and that feels acceptable. Not knowing rests easily here. You breathe once more. The breath becomes the oar. In. Out. Each breath carries you further inward, deeper into the current, toward a place where the river gathers everything it has shaped, preparing you quietly for the profound stillness that waits at its center. You continue inward, carried by the current that no longer feels like movement. The river narrows gently around you, not tightening, not closing, simply focusing, like attention settling naturally on a single thought before sleep. There is no sense of arrival yet, only a growing calm that seems to thicken the air itself. You breathe in. The breath feels warm. The hum of the river grows quieter, not because it fades, but because it deepens beyond sound. It becomes something you feel rather than hear, a low presence that steadies everything inside you. The current does not pull harder as you move inward. It grows softer, almost tender. You are not rushing toward the center. You are being welcomed. The river of time, once wide and flowing, now gathers itself into a smooth, silent pool. Motion here is minimal, almost optional. The water does not swirl or churn. It rests. You sense that this is the place toward which all curves have been patiently guiding you. Your body responds before your thoughts do. Muscles loosen further. Breath slows without instruction. Even your heartbeat seems to settle into a quieter agreement with the moment. Nothing asks you to stay alert. Nothing demands attention. You are allowed to soften completely. Science speaks gently here, if it speaks at all. At the center of such immense curvature, familiar rules begin to blur. Time and space lose their clear boundaries, folding into something simpler and harder to name. This is not destruction. It is compression of meaning. The river narrows into stillness. Stillness widens into presence. You feel as though you are approaching a pool so calm it reflects nothing, not because it lacks depth, but because it holds everything too closely to scatter it. The idea of direction becomes faint. Forward and inward begin to feel like the same word. You breathe again. The pause lingers. This place is often described with dramatic language, but nothing here feels dramatic. There is no tearing sensation, no sharp transition. The universe does not shout when it reaches the edge of its understanding. It grows quiet. You find comfort in that. The still pool does not announce itself as a destination. It feels more like a condition, a way of being where movement, time, and certainty loosen their grip. The river does not disappear here. It becomes so calm that its motion blends seamlessly into rest. You notice that even curiosity slows. Not because answers are denied, but because questions feel less urgent. The need to label or define dissolves, leaving only experience behind. You are floating. Perfectly supported. The idea of a singular center exists here, but not as a point you crash into. It is more like a depth you approach asymptotically, always nearer, never abrupt. The closer you drift, the quieter everything becomes, until silence feels textured, layered, full. You feel warmth, not heat, but the comfort of being completely held. The river seems to cradle you, gathering everything it has shaped, every curve, every pause, into this one deep calm. Time behaves strangely here. Or perhaps honestly. Moments no longer feel sequential. They overlap gently, like breaths stacked softly atop one another. The idea of before and after loosens, leaving you with something closer to now, but wider, slower, more forgiving. You sense that this is where current understanding begins to rest. The equations that describe the universe step back politely, acknowledging their limits. They do not fail. They pause. Not knowing is allowed here. You feel no fear in this pause. The absence of certainty does not feel like emptiness. It feels like a room with the lights dimmed low enough to rest your eyes. The universe is not hiding something from you. It is offering you quiet. You smile faintly at the thought that even physics needs a moment to lie down. The river's edges blur into the pool. There is no clear boundary marking where flow becomes stillness. It is a gradual easing, like exhaling slowly until you forget where the breath ends. You breathe out. The body sinks slightly. You are aware that this still pool is often imagined as an end, but from within it, the concept of ending feels misplaced. There is no sense of finality here. Only concentration. Everything that was moving now rests together, indistinguishable but intact. Time does not stop. It gathers. The river carries memory with it, even into stillness. Every ripple that once moved along its surface has left an impression, layered gently within the pool. Nothing has been erased. Nothing has been lost to violence or chaos. This comforts you more than you expected. You float in this deep calm, aware that understanding may not follow you all the way here, and that is acceptable. Some places are meant to be felt rather than solved. The universe does not require you to explain it to be part of it. Your breath continues, slow and steady, as if practicing how to remain present without effort. In. Out. Each cycle feels complete on its own, needing nothing more. The still pool holds you effortlessly. There is a softness to this place that defies its reputation. Instead of pressure, there is release. Instead of collapse, there is quiet density. Everything feels closer together, not crushed, but unified. You rest inside this unity, letting thoughts drift without direction, letting awareness expand and contract naturally. The river has brought you here not to overwhelm you, but to show you how calm depth can be. You feel safe enough to stop trying. Safe enough to stop naming. The universe feels patient here, as if it has all the time it needs, even though time itself behaves differently. Or perhaps because of that. You sense that this stillness is not an end state, but a pause rich with potential. The river does not end. It pauses. You remain suspended in this calm, breath floating, awareness soft, held within the deepest part of the flow. And somewhere within this stillness, you begin to sense that the river remembers everything it has ever carried, preparing quietly to reveal how nothing meaningful is ever truly lost. You remain within the stillness, floating easily, as if the river itself is breathing with you. Nothing urges you onward. Nothing pulls you back. The calm holds, wide and patient, and within that calm, something subtle begins to reveal itself. You breathe in. The quiet responds. At first, it feels like nothing has changed. The pool remains smooth, the depth unchanged. But as your awareness drifts gently outward, you begin to sense texture beneath the stillness, like faint patterns etched into glass. The river remembers. Not loudly. Not dramatically. It remembers the way stone remembers water, through soft curves shaped over time. The still pool is not empty. It is layered, holding impressions of every ripple that ever passed through. Time, you realize, does not simply let go of what it carries. This realization does not arrive as a shock. It settles in slowly, like warmth spreading through your chest. Even here, where motion fades into near stillness, information remains, folded gently into the fabric of space-time. You feel comforted by this. Deeply comforted. Science whispers again, careful not to disturb the calm. There has long been a question about whether what falls into such depth is truly lost. Standing here, resting within the river, the idea of loss feels strangely out of place. The river does not forget. It compresses. You imagine memories like fine sediment, settling along the riverbed, layer by layer, never erased, only rearranged. Every wave that once shimmered on the surface has left its trace, pressed gently into the structure of the flow. You breathe out slowly. The thought settles. Time, even when stretched or slowed or folded inward, continues to keep account of what passes through it. Not in numbers, not in lists, but in structure, in subtle relationships woven into the shape of space-time itself. This remembering is quiet, almost shy. It does not announce itself. It simply exists, embedded in the way the river holds its form. The still pool feels richer now, denser with meaning, not heavier, just fuller. You float calmly, aware that nothing meaningful has vanished behind you. Everything you were, everything you experienced, has left a mark, however faint, on the river's shape. You smile softly, because this feels personal, even though it is universal. The idea that the universe keeps memory feels kind. It means that presence matters, even when moments seem to pass unnoticed. Even the quietest experiences leave gentle fingerprints on reality. You rest into that thought. It rests with you. The river's surface remains calm, but beneath it, layers of history coexist, stacked without conflict. Past and present do not argue here. They share space politely, like old friends sitting quietly in the same room. You notice how your own memories behave now. They drift up softly, without sharp edges, without urgency. Each one feels complete, needing no follow-up, no explanation. Time remembers, but it does not cling. You breathe again, slow and steady, and sense how the still pool gathers everything without strain. This place does not destroy information. It holds it close, the way a library holds stories long after the authors have gone to sleep. You chuckle quietly at the thought that the universe may be the ultimate archivist, endlessly patient, never misplacing a single experience. The river hums faintly, as if in agreement. This remembering does not require awareness. The universe does not actively think about what it keeps. Memory is simply a consequence of structure, of curves shaped by what has passed before. The river's shape is its record. You feel no pressure to understand how this works in detail. The explanation remains conceptual, gentle, just enough to reassure without waking the analytical part of your mind. Understanding here is allowed to be soft. You float, suspended in this awareness, sensing that even in the deepest calm, the universe remains attentive. Nothing meaningful is truly lost. Not here. Not anywhere. This thought spreads warmth through you, easing something you did not realize you were holding. The fear of disappearance, of erasure, loosens its grip. Time may bend, stretch, and slow, but it does not discard what passes through it. The river remembers because it is shaped by remembering. You notice that the still pool no longer feels like a pause alone. It feels like a gathering place, where countless moments coexist quietly, each leaving behind a trace too subtle to see but too real to deny. You breathe out again. The calm deepens. The river begins, almost imperceptibly, to widen. Not abruptly. Just enough to suggest movement returning, gently, carefully. The stillness remains, but it is no longer singular. It opens outward, like a slow yawn before sleep. You sense that remembering is not only about the past. It is about connection, about continuity. The river does not only flow forward. It carries its history with it, shaping what comes next. This thought feels important, but not urgent. It can wait. Everything here can wait. You remain floating, held by the knowledge that time keeps what matters, even as it reshapes itself around immense depths. The river's calm persists, but its edges soften, preparing quietly for a broader flow. You take one more slow breath. The pool widens gently. And as the river begins to open again, you sense that its memory may allow it not only to move forward, but perhaps, one day, to curve back upon itself, carrying echoes of everything it has ever known. You float within the widening river, aware that the stillness has softened into motion again. Not the hurried kind. Not the restless kind. This movement feels circular, like a thought returning to itself just before sleep claims it. You breathe in. The breath curves. The river no longer insists on a single direction. It flows forward, yes, but it also bends sideways, curling gently, as if curious about its own shape. The water carries its memory with it, and that memory seems to invite repetition. You notice this without concern. Cycles feel familiar. The idea that time might loop does not disturb you here. It feels almost obvious, like remembering a tune you did not realize you already knew. The river has learned enough about itself to begin tracing paths that fold back gently, without collision, without confusion. You breathe out slowly. The rhythm repeats. Science approaches this idea carefully, aware that straight lines have always been easier to draw than circles. But spacetime is not obligated to remain simple. Where gravity curves deeply enough, time may find paths that lead not only onward, but around. The river hums softly, as if pleased with its own flexibility. You imagine the flow looping in broad, graceful arcs, like water circling a wide basin before continuing downstream. These loops are not traps. They are expressions of freedom within structure, movement guided by shape rather than force. Time does not get stuck. It revisits. This revisiting feels gentle, like returning to a place you once rested and finding it unchanged, still welcoming. Moments brush against their echoes, not merging, not colliding, just acknowledging one another as they pass. You feel your breath settle into a circular rhythm. In. Out. In. Out. Each cycle complete, each one leading naturally into the next. Nothing needs to progress quickly. Nothing needs to conclude. Cycles are comforting. They always have been. Day follows night. Tides rise and fall. Sleep arrives, leaves, and returns again. The universe has always favored repetition when it wishes to soothe itself. You smile faintly, realizing that time looping is not as strange as it sounds. Your own thoughts do this every night, drifting back to familiar places as consciousness loosens its grip. The river's memory makes these loops possible. Because nothing meaningful is lost, paths can cross themselves without erasing what came before. The shape of spacetime allows echoes, not copies, revisits without repetition fatigue. You chuckle softly at the idea that even time enjoys revisiting its favorite moments. The flow feels steady now, humming with continuity. You sense no beginning and no end to these curves, only movement that feels complete at every point along the way. Forward still exists, but it no longer feels like the only option. You breathe again. The breath circles back. In this place, before and after feel less rigid. They soften into something more like alongside. Moments exist near one another, layered gently, accessible without urgency. The river does not knot itself. It loops cleanly. These loops do not create confusion. They create reassurance. They suggest that even if time bends back, it does so smoothly, without paradox, without panic. The universe does not trip over itself. It traces elegant arcs instead. You feel your body respond with deeper relaxation. Shoulders sink. Muscles soften. There is comfort in knowing that progress does not require straight lines. You think briefly of all the times you believed you had gone backward, only to realize later that you were circling something important, learning it more deeply with each pass. Time, it seems, understands this instinct well. The river's loops feel like learning. Gentle learning. Science does not promise that such loops exist everywhere, or that they behave the same way in all places. But here, where gravity has shaped spacetime profoundly, the possibility feels natural, almost inevitable. You are not asked to picture equations or diagrams. The experience itself is enough. The river curves. The flow hums. Time allows itself to revisit. You float within this looping calm, feeling no urgency to exit the cycle. Each pass feels fresh, not redundant. Familiarity deepens rather than dulls. The humor of it warms you. The universe, vast and ancient, still enjoys a good refrain. You breathe out slowly. The current circles. You sense that these loops do not trap you in repetition. They allow connection. They let moments brush against each other across curved paths, sharing information, resonance, memory. Time bends, but it does not break. It folds gently. The river carries you through these arcs with effortless grace. You feel held within continuity, not lost within complexity. Everything remains smooth, continuous, patient. You begin to sense that perspective matters here. From one position, the river appears to move forward. From another, it curves back. Neither view is wrong. Both belong. This realization settles quietly in your chest. You breathe again, steady and slow, and notice how the looping rhythm of the river matches the looping rhythm of your own awareness as it drifts toward rest. Thoughts circle gently, revisiting comforting ideas, releasing others. The river hums with quiet continuity, its loops neither endless nor final. Just present. You feel safe within this flexibility. The universe does not insist on linear progress. It allows wandering, revisiting, returning, all without judgment. Time bends here. Time listens. You remain floating, relaxed, as the loops widen and soften, gradually easing back into a more open flow. The river does not abandon its curves, but it stretches them, preparing for new perspectives. You take one more slow breath. The cycle completes. And as the river's looping calm settles into a gentle forward drift once more, you sense that understanding time may depend less on where it goes, and more on where you stand while watching it flow. You find yourself once again on the riverbank. Not abruptly. Naturally. The ground feels firm beneath you, steady and familiar, like an old friend who never needed an introduction. The river continues to flow beside you, calm and unbothered, its looping curves and softened currents now visible from a little distance. You blink slowly. The world stays gentle. From here, the river looks almost ordinary again. It moves past at a comfortable pace, reflecting dim starlight, whispering softly to itself. If you did not know better, you might think nothing remarkable was happening at all. And yet, you do know better. You breathe in. The breath grounds you. You realize that the river has not changed. You have. Or rather, where you stand has changed. Time feels different depending on your position along its banks, and this difference does not mean one experience is more real than another. The river does not play favorites. It offers perspectives. Science explains this gently. Time is not universal in the way you once imagined. It does not pass identically for everyone, everywhere. Each observer experiences their own flow, shaped by motion, gravity, and position within spacetime. Standing here, you feel time move steadily. Standing elsewhere, it may linger. Both experiences are valid. Both belong to the same river. You rest your weight evenly on your feet, appreciating the quiet certainty of the ground. The firmness beneath you contrasts softly with the fluid movement beside you, and you notice how comforting that contrast feels. Perspective, you realize, is everything. You watch the river and imagine another observer floating deeper within its curves. From your vantage point, their movement might appear slowed, stretched, almost suspended. From theirs, everything would feel perfectly normal, unremarkable, calm. No one is wrong. No one is late. Time does not demand agreement. It allows coexistence. You find reassurance in this idea. It means your experience of time, however rushed or slow it has felt in your life, was never a failure of perception. It was simply a consequence of where you were standing. You breathe out slowly. The thought settles. The universe does not provide a single clock by which all moments must align. Instead, it offers countless local rhythms, each one meaningful within its own frame. The river flows differently along every stretch of its bank. You glance at the water's surface, noticing how reflections shift depending on where you stand. Light stretches here, compresses there, but remains the same light. Time behaves the same way, shaped by perspective rather than decree. You smile faintly, amused by how long it took humanity to accept that experience matters. There is gentle humor in realizing that even time refuses to be bossed around. You remain still, observing without needing to participate. The river does not require you to enter it to be understood. Sometimes, standing back reveals patterns that immersion hides. From here, the loops you sensed earlier are still present, but they look different. Less mysterious. More like natural curves in a long, patient flow. Nothing feels paradoxical. Nothing feels contradictory. Perspective softens complexity. You notice your breath again, steady and slow, anchoring you to this position. The simple act of breathing feels like a declaration of presence, of being here rather than elsewhere. Here, time feels familiar. Elsewhere, it feels strange. Both are true. The river continues to flow past, indifferent to your realizations, yet perfectly aligned with them. It has always behaved this way. Only your understanding has shifted. You sense a deep reassurance growing within you. If time depends on perspective, then there is no single correct pace for a life. No universal schedule you are failing to meet. You were never behind. You were simply somewhere else. This thought relaxes something deep in your chest. The pressure to synchronize with an imagined universal clock dissolves. Your experience is enough. It always was. You listen to the quiet hum of the river, noticing how it sounds softer now that you are not inside its deepest curves. The sound is gentle, familiar, like a lullaby remembered from childhood. The bank feels safe. The river feels kind. You consider how observation itself shapes experience. Watching time flow is different from floating within it, and neither position offers the full picture alone. Understanding emerges from moving between perspectives, not clinging to one. The universe seems to encourage this flexibility. It does not punish you for standing still. It does not reward you for moving faster. It simply allows experience to unfold. You chuckle softly, because even time respects personal space. You remain on the bank a little longer, letting the river pass without commentary. Thoughts drift by like leaves on the surface, noticed, then released. You breathe in. You breathe out. The river flows gently past again, familiar yet newly appreciated. You sense that time is less a rule imposed upon the universe, and more a relationship between motion, gravity, and the observer who happens to be watching. This relationship feels intimate rather than strict. It adapts. It listens. You feel calm knowing that wherever you stand, time will meet you there. You take one last slow breath, feeling grounded, present, and quietly curious, as the river continues its steady flow, inviting you to consider what it might feel like if the universe itself were not rushing anywhere at all. You sit on the riverbank, or perhaps float just above its gentle surface. Time feels different here. Not in length or speed, but in quality. It does not tick. It drifts. The notion of seconds, minutes, and hours seems quaint, almost humorous, like a toy left behind by a child who has grown wiser. You breathe in. You breathe out. The rhythm of the universe feels vast and slow. Motion is present, but it is not dictated by urgency. Gravity guides the flow, the river curves naturally, and each breath you take aligns with the movement around you. You are part of the drift, not a traveler racing against it. You smile faintly, because even cosmic scales seem to enjoy leisure. The universe has never needed you to hurry. The planets, the stars, the distant galaxies, they do not tick in sync with human expectation. They move according to their own patterns, subtle, patient, timeless. And here, in this quiet moment beside the river, you are invited to do the same. Time is not imposed. It is experienced. The river hums softly. You notice how the surface curves, how reflections stretch lazily across it. Each ripple seems deliberate in a way that does not demand comprehension. You sense that the flow is informed by countless unseen interactions, but it carries none of their weight. Everything simply moves together, harmoniously. Your breath matches the hum. In. Out. In. Out. The rhythm is unbroken, effortless, steady. There is no beginning, no end. Only presence. You watch a ripple drift past, bending gently around a curve. It does not hurry. It does not insist on leaving your sight. The water teaches patience. Even in movement, it rests. You feel a lightness in your chest. The tension you carried, the sense of needing to catch up or push forward, loosens. Here, the universe is patient, and so are you. The river moves not by ticking seconds, but by continuous flow. You sense that you, too, can drift with the current. There is freedom in letting go of measured time. You are not late. You are not early. You simply are. You breathe in slowly, and the air feels warmer, more tangible. The breath lingers in your chest, stretching moments without strain. You exhale, and the river carries the air outward, like a soft conversation with the universe. Even your thoughts slow. Ideas arrive in gentle arcs, settle, then fade without insistence. There is no rush to understand, no need to categorize. The universe does not demand it, and neither do you. Time is something you feel. Movement is something you experience. The river guides you further, not pushing, not pulling, simply suggesting. Its curves are gentle, and the flow is continuous. You sense that you could follow this drift forever, and it would never feel repetitive. Each moment contains subtle variation, as if the universe itself were improvising, composing a melody in slow motion. You imagine the stars above, distant yet familiar. Their light curves along with the river, each photon drifting patiently, unhurried across space-time. Even light, the fastest thing you know, moves as if it has chosen to enjoy the journey. A soft chuckle escapes you, amused by how literally the universe seems to take its own advice. Patience, presence, curiosity, it all drifts effortlessly together. You feel warmth in your body. The coolness of the night air mixes with this warmth, like layers of fabric that adjust perfectly to your comfort. Your senses are heightened yet serene. Sight, sound, and touch exist as gentle invitations rather than urgent messages. The river continues, carrying sediment of memory, echoes of distant currents, fragments of long-gone moments, all blending seamlessly. You realize that every experience, every passing thought, has been preserved in this drift, forming a continuous pattern that can be traced, if only gently. You inhale. You feel expansion. You exhale. You feel release. The universe does not rush you. The river does not hurry. You do not need to chase the next moment. The flow itself contains enough substance to satisfy attention. Presence is the currency here. Awareness is the guide. The gentle humor of this truth makes you smile again. You have spent so long measuring, counting, pacing, and worrying about time. And now, beside the river, you see how unnecessary it all was. The universe drifts. You drift. That is sufficient. The river begins to widen. The flow, though still calm, grows more spacious, more expansive. Light stretches across it in long, lazy lines. Shadows curve softly beneath ripples. Everything suggests ease, calm, and balance. The drift is not linear. It is expansive. It is patient. You feel your body relax deeper, sinking into a rhythm that matches the river's own. Gravity supports you softly, holding without pressure. The night air brushes lightly against your skin. The sound of the current mingles with distant hums from the cosmos. You are fully present, fully included. Time no longer demands measurement. Space no longer demands attention. They simply exist as companions in your experience. You consider how small concerns, deadlines, and schedules fade in this perspective. They are distant. They are distant, and that distance does not cause fear. It brings calm. They belong to another pace, another observer. Here, you are where you are meant to be. The river hums again, low and gentle, guiding you, reminding you, without words. Its surface gleams in soft patches of moonlight. You notice each reflection, each subtle distortion, and feel the beauty of persistence without urgency. The flow is constant. The drift is eternal. Your breath carries you. Your awareness carries you. Your body, your senses, your attention all drift together, aligned with the current. You do not chase. You do not push. You simply participate. You smile softly at the realization that drifting is enough. Drifting is profound. It is calm, restorative, and truthful. The universe does not tick. It drifts. You drift with it. That is all that is required. The river curves gently ahead. Its width suggests new expanses, new paths, and possibilities. The calm persists, but a soft promise lingers, the drift continues. There is always more to feel, to sense, to notice, without urgency, without measurement, without hurry. You take one last slow breath. In. Out. You exhale slowly and let your body soften completely. The river carries you with effortless grace. You have traveled its curves, its loops, its still pools, and now you rest fully within the flow. The current is familiar, yet endlessly expansive. It holds you tenderly, the way water cradles a leaf drifting without purpose, without resistance. You breathe in. You breathe out. The river has always been beneath you, within you, surrounding you. Every bend, every deepening current, every quiet pool has been part of your journey, not something to cross, but something to experience. You realize that you were never truly separate from the flow. You have been resting within it all along. The air feels warmer now, soft against your skin. A gentle hum surrounds you, neither loud nor distant, just present. The black holes you glimpsed along the river are not monsters, not places of destruction. They are teachers. Their depths, their curves, their singular stillness reveal the true nature of the river, patient, continuous, layered with memory and motion, a guide rather than a trap. They show you how the current bends, how time can fold, how presence matters more than pace. You feel safe. Completely safe. Breath drifts gently in your chest. In. Out. In. Out. Each cycle matches the rhythm of the river. Each breath aligns with the flow of spacetime, the gentle pull of gravity, the curvature that shapes your journey. Motion here feels natural, effortless. You are not swimming against the current. You are floating within it. You notice the soft play of moonlight across the water's surface. Light stretches and glimmers, reflecting subtle patterns of movement, curves upon curves, loops that fold inward and outward. Shadows stretch and fade without harsh edges. The river has grown wide again, expansive and calm, yet every previous bend, every deepening pool, every still center remains woven into its shape. You smile faintly, amused by the quiet patience of it all. Even the universe seems to chuckle softly, inviting you to relax further. The memory of the river's bends and stillness lingers within you. Time, space, and motion exist simultaneously, layered gently like soft fabric draped over your awareness. You feel their presence without pressure, their patterns without demand. The flow carries you, and you carry awareness in return. You breathe in slowly. You breathe out softly. The deepest pools, the loops, the edges of no return, they do not frighten you now. Their lessons are gentle. They show you that even in extreme curvature, even in immense gravity, the river preserves everything. Nothing meaningful is lost. Every ripple, every curve, every fold of time remains as memory within the flow. You rest within this understanding. No need to analyze. No need to chase clarity. Even as your mind drifts, the river continues. Its current hums low and steady, supporting everything it carries, including you. You are a part of its patient, enduring movement. You notice that your heartbeat aligns softly with the river's hum, that your breath flows naturally with its rhythm. You are held by the universe's quiet attention. The river flows, carrying what has passed, what is present, and what will arrive, all in seamless coexistence. You sense that time itself is not a ticking clock here. It is not a line to measure or a ladder to climb. It is a vast, flowing presence, folding memory into motion, guiding you gently without urgency. You feel warmth in your chest. You feel weight in your body. You feel calm in your mind. Everything that you have experienced along the river, the slow bends, the deep pools, the loops, the stillness, has led to this moment of rest. And yet there is no sense of arrival, no need to conclude. The river does not end, and neither does the support it provides. Presence is enough. Awareness is enough. Being is enough. You float, cradled by the current, and notice that the universe seems to sigh with you, an endless exhale of patience, reflection, and calm. Each fold in space-time, each echo of memory, each curve of the flow exists to hold, not to push. You are included in this design simply by existing, simply by allowing the river to carry you. You notice again the gentle play of starlight on the water. It sparkles softly, lingering, shifting, never hurrying. Even light, the fastest traveler, seems to pause here, stretched by the gentle curves of the river. You realize that everything in this vast system moves together, not in competition, not in urgency, but in quiet cooperation. You are part of this cooperation. Your presence matters. Your experience matters. Breath continues, slow and steady. In. Out. In. Out. The rhythm becomes nearly indistinguishable from the flow of the river itself. You are both participant and observer, held and holding. You do not need to choose. You do not need to act. You simply rest. You smile, softly, at the thought that the universe teaches patience in the most surprising ways. Even immense gravity, even singular depths, even time bending back on itself, these are not threats. They are guidance, subtle instructions whispered in the language of presence. The river carries you forward, or inward, or perhaps in a direction that no longer requires definition. You feel it in your chest, in your lungs, in the weight of your body resting gently on the current. There is no rush, no alarm, no need for haste. Only the flow, endless, continuous, calm. You are completely included. Completely supported. Your awareness drifts freely within this realization. Every curve, every fold, every remembered ripple remains accessible. Memory and motion coexist effortlessly. The river continues, patient and kind. You are floating in the deepest calm, resting within the knowledge that you have always been a part of the flow. You take a final deep breath. In. Out. And as you exhale, you feel the river carrying you softly onward, moonlit and infinite, its current continuous, its calm enduring, and you rest fully, completely, inside the gentle embrace of the universe's patience.